Everybody. It is good to see you once again for the second session of our course on Gandhi and King, Soul Force and Social Change. As I mentioned during our first session yesterday, my pattern of teaching includes, at the beginning of each session, asking the question, is there anything you want to talk about? That is your invitation to, one, bring up any issues from the previous class periods that you may want to clarify that were confusing. Number two, it is an invitation for you to share something that is in your mind, perhaps an item in the news that you find disturbing or something that is of concern to you. We will take about 10 minutes for that, and then we will get into the course material for the day. The course material for this day is basically introducing the course, having overview of the course, the requirements of the course, the outline for the course. I want us all to be very clear about that. You should have your own copies of this, but Partial will also be putting up slides so we can look at it online as we want to. Third, each class period will have some time for discussion. My feeling is that it is good to interact. And so if you have a question while we are talking about it, perhaps relating to the course objectives, for example, you can interrupt me. Just unmute and ask a question. But we will always have time for discussion at the end. I have also planned, if we go through the course overview very quickly, and there are very few questions, then I have another slide that Harshal will be able to share, which will prompt discussion at the end of the class period. In this case, my plan would be to discuss human nature, because our view of human nature is very, very central to the way we look at the world. So, 3 parts of the class. Are there any questions? The course content for the day and discussion. So, is there anything you want to talk about? Do you have any questions for a few minutes? Anyone? Perhaps I have not had an opportunity to confuse you yet.
I have one.
Yes.
I would really like to understand, obviously there are differences, but I would really like to understand in life, what is the difference between peace and nonviolence?
Okay. Well, as
not
we
just
go,
not just in terms of its physical nature, but its sociological, psychological, cultural aspects.
Well, Biju, we of course could spend an entire course on that subject.
Okay.
But we do plan to spend tomorrow on that subject.
Okay.
As we look at the course content, it was suggested to me weeks ago that it would be wise to lay some foundation, very basic foundation, for people participating in the class relating to nonviolence, peace, and also peace studies. And so there will be a slide that we will work through tomorrow, and I hope that that will begin to help you clarify your thinking.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others that have something you want to discuss? Well, I woke to news this morning that Mr. Trump has frozen all foreign aid throughout the world from the United States. $72 billion he is not spending until it is reviewed. That does not include military aid to Israel, which is about $4 billion, and it does not include aid to Egypt. As I looked at the list of those who would be potentially harmed by this action of Mr. Trump, African countries lead the list. 7 of the 10 countries that the United States gives the most aid to are in Africa, including Egypt. But the other 6 countries are all now in limbo. Congo, for example, receives aid from the United States, and that aid is now not being spent, pending a review. I am seeing in Congo, of course, the ongoing struggle of over 30 years of civil war. But it's an increased struggle now because of M23 in the eastern part of the country, taking a major city, Goma, apparently with assistance from Rwanda. Now, these are issues that bother me. Of course, it bothers me that there is a big war in Congo that most people have never heard about. But it also bothers me that the United States, my country, which has been giving humanitarian aid to Congo, is now cutting it off, at least temporarily. To me, that is very, very bothersome. It is not necessarily something I want to talk about much, but it's an example of something that uh, issue that you might like to mention to people in future classes. When I say is there anything that you want to discuss, we can spend a little bit of time on some issues that are really troubling to you. Yes, Amit.
Michael, I'm a little bit aware of this issue in Congo Republic, and I would like to know how does United States ensures that the money that is sent to Congo is actually used for the approved causes and is not going to rather uh, enhance the conflict happening there.
Well, I don't know about the details, but the United States aid can flow through USAID, which is a government agency. USAID provides aid directly. The money does not go to the government of the country first. So any corruption there may be would be with the US government agency, USAID. uh, Also, of course, aid flows indirectly from the US to the United Nations, then to places like Congo. But that is troubling because the World Health Organization, for example, which is associated with the United Nations, has just recently been told by Mr. Trump that the US will no longer provide assistance to who? The World Health Organization. And that effectively cuts the WHO budget by 18% because the US is the largest contributor to the World Health Organization. So directly and indirectly, the Trump administration is saying, America first, America first. And this is being reflected in these policies. While my tone of voice may imply a criticism, which is real, the facts that I'm sharing with you are not fake facts. They are reality. And so that is troubling to me. Now I see there may be some new people in the class today. I'm looking at Sophie. Were you with us yesterday? Would you like to unmute and briefly introduce yourself and from where you come?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't participate yesterday, as I usually on Thursdays always have another obligation that I couldn't cancel for the 1 week. Next week I'll be fine for the Thursday as well. So my name is Sophie. I am from Germany. I live in Ulm, so it's like south of Germany, in between Stuttgart and Munich. I have a bachelor's degree in international relations and management, and I have a master's degree in peace studies and international politics. I've been following Peace Foundation pretty much from the start, so I was actually quite aware of what's happening, as I know Amit from university when we were studying for the bachelor's. I do work now since almost 4 years. I'm a political advisor for the Chamber of Crafts here in my hometown in Ulm. So I do a lot of like lobbying work for the crafts in Germany. I have a lot of contact with the people in our federal government, but also the people in our state government, and also sometimes European Parliament members, depending on the issues. And well, I do really miss the kind of theoretical input since I'm working, as well, work is not the same thing than studying, and actually being able to be to have time to actually focus on theoretical backgrounds, on deeper knowledgement of things. So I'm looking very forward to kind of get a little bit of more input again on that side, on a topic that obviously I'm very interested in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen.
Okay. There may be others that are new to this class who missed yesterday. Please feel free briefly to introduce yourself and from where you come.
Hello.
Azima.
Yes, Prof. It
And
is nice to.
tell us a little, very little about yourself.
Oh, good. I'm sorry I missed yesterday class engagement, just for the reason that I could not cancel off some engagements scheduled earlier. I'm sorry for that, and I hope to learn from every one of you there. I'm by name Ezema Jidofo Marcus. I'm from Nigeria, the southeastern Nigeria, and I hold a master's degree in science education, especially in physics education, and my research interests have been on cognitive science. I've been a science tutor, educationist, a policy writer pertaining STEM education, teacher professional development, learning instructional models, cutting across technology in the classroom. I've, been teaching for over 10 years here in Nigeria, and that is just a little of myself. And I hope to learn more. I've engaged in peace studies and peace engagement. I also champion and work as a secretary in Justice Development and Peace Commission, a commission of the Roman Catholic Church. And that is just me. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Is there anyone else new today? Hearing no one, then I assume we can move forward, and let us go ahead and do what we had planned to do, and that is go through the course syllabus, we call it. And I believe that page 1 is already up on our screen. You, of course, see the name of the course, my name, how I can be reached by WhatsApp, phone, and email, and how you can mail things to me by postal service if you really want. The course objectives are 4. First, provide a brief introduction to peace studies, nonviolence, and a wide range of paths to peace. We will do that tomorrow for the next 3 days, tomorrow and next Thursday and Friday. It's a brief introduction. Second, carefully examine the life, worldview, and soul force nonviolent action strategy of Gandhi as he sought to have change in South Africa and India. That will take about 3 to 4 weeks of the class. Third, explore the life, worldview, and soul force nonviolent action, militant nonviolence approach of Martin Luther King Jr. That will take an additional 3 to 4 weeks. And throughout the process of the sessions, we will have number 4, the objective of promoting reflection regarding the legacies of Gandhi and King, both relating to their legacies and impacts on others, as well as on how they may help guide us in our personal lives and actions. Understand that my desire for this course is not just information, for you to be better informed, a little more knowledgeable. I also want you to be a little more active. That is, I want you to understand Gandhi and King and help that understanding inform you as to what your values are, what your worldview is, what your moral compass may be that will guide you in your future actions. So it's a very ambitious course, you see. The the recording has begun again. And the course will finish on April 4th, the day after the anniversary of the assassination of King. There was a total of 40 course contact hours. I don't want to go into detail here, but this was intentional. In the future, it is my hope that some students, some of the people enrolled, may choose to take the course for credit. And 40 hours of contact in the US is the equivalent to 3 semester credit hours or 4 quarter credit hours. A semester is typically 15 weeks long. A quarter in the United States is typically 10 weeks long. You understand, though, that we assume this time none of you are taking the course for credit. Hence, the course is entirely free. I will reemphasize, if you receive a solicitation for money from anyone to pay for this course, it is almost certainly fraud. no money is being asked for this course. If you were taking it for credit, you would need to pay tuition to whatever institution you might be getting the credit from. You would not be getting credit from me. I am not accredited. But my institution, Portland Community College, arrangements could be made to take the course for credit, but a 4-credit quarter class at my institution, Portland Community College, would cost $500. So, good news. You're getting a $500 class from me for free. Bad news. It doesn't help you get anywhere towards a degree. It is not transferable. I hope we are clear. Okay? I'm also targeting the presentation of this course to the undergraduate level. I don't assume that you have a master's degree or a PhD or that you've won a Nobel Peace Prize already. I don't make any of these assumptions. So I try to start very basic. I hope that this will not be boring for any of you who are more knowledgeable already. But be patient. I'm sure that everyone will learn something new, including me. The timing of the course, I think we have already clarified since you are already attending. It was set up so as to be global. That is, the 8:30 p.m. India Standard Time, which is inconvenient perhaps for about half of you who are enrolled in this class, is made to be convenient for people in Europe, Africa, and even where I live in the United States. 8:30 p.m. IST is 7 a.m. where I live on the Pacific coast of the state of Oregon. It's a very big world out there, and it's a challenge to have everything happening on the same day, so we're not confused. Today is January 31st, everywhere that you are living. But some of you, it is late night, and for people like me, it is early morning. I'm hoping that that works well. Let us go to page 2 of the course requirements. Are there any questions relating to page 1? I really like to be perfectly clear, but perfection is impossible. For 30 people or 40 people that are taking this class now, there have to be 3 or 4 of you that may be a little confused. Please be honest and unmute and feel free to share your concern. Hearing no one, let us go on to page 2. The course requirements are intended to be very, very minimal. You're not receiving credit for the class. And I understand that many of you have very, very busy lives. And so I wanted to make it so that it will be very doable for you to receive a certificate for the course when it is finished. So, first, attendance is required at minimum of 2/3 of the 30 sessions. So if you attend 20 class sessions, you will have the certificate. And by the way, of those 20 minimum, I want 10 to be in person. So already, those of you who have attended yesterday and today, you have 2 of your 10. The other 10 could, if you need to, be attended by missing the class as it is in person and looking at the recording for the class that you missed. So I am not encouraging you to miss classes. I'm just recognizing that life happens. A family member may become ill. You may have employment responsibilities. You may have a bad internet connection. So many possibilities, yes? But I want you to receive a certificate for this class. So attend at least 10 sessions in person and attend at least 10, if you need to, by viewing the recordings for the class that you missed. Okay? This is not too difficult. Number 2, a journal.
Can I just ask one short question?
Yes.
So, for example, now that I already missed like the one yesterday, the session yesterday, where is it going to be uploaded? We're going to be getting the recording sent per email, or you're going to upload it somewhere so we can watch it?
Well, that is a good question for Harshal. Can you respond, Harshal?
Should I?
Amit Bhai will give answer.
Yeah. So we are recording all these sessions, and once the course is complete, we are still discussing either once the course is complete or every lecture, every session is complete, we will upload, we will develop and then upload it on the Wiki Nonviolence website. So we will share the link in the group and you will have the access to everything.
At the Wiki Nonviolence website. That is the answer, and a link will be provided. The first class period was only introductions. There was very little content shared. But again, if you would like to hear those introductions, you will be able to do so. Very good. And by the way, thank you for interrupting me. You see, that was part of the learning experience. I don't mind. Okay, the second requirement for this course is for you to take notes. Take notes either in person online or by watching a recording, and produce at least one typed paragraph of your personal reflections relating to that session. One typed paragraph does not even mean one page. It means one paragraph. This is very minimal, but if you attend a class in person or view a session online, take some notes that will be good for you personally. I don't need to ever see those notes, but do produce at least one typed paragraph sharing your feelings, what you learned from that one session. And of course, if you learn
Professor
nothing.
Michael, may I interrupt you here?
Yes, please.
Of course, we would really love to share our views and what we learned from the session. I have a query. Where do we post our impressions about the session?
Well,
in the group?
No, I would suggest not to post them, because if we have posts from 30 or 40 or 50 people, that will be a lot of posting. So I ask you only to, at some point, share with me. And you can send it to my email, which is on the syllabus. And as you'll see when we get to page 3, I even have a couple of designated days where I ask for those one paragraph reflections. So it is good to, type up a very short paragraph after each session you experience. And eventually you will share it with me.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And again, thank you for interrupting. You know that any question any of you have is a question in the mind of somebody else. And when you ask, you're helping everyone in the group. You know that. Well, that is the truth. I know it to be true. And so that is why I do not mind being interrupted. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
The third requirement of the class is a little bit of writing, not much. 2 worldview papers. And when I say 2 to 3 pages in length, I don't want them more than 3 pages. And in fact, I even say double spaced in font 12 because I don't want it in font 8. I don't want it so small in print that I can't read it. Only 3 pages max. And this, you can use your journal entries as your research base, but I'm asking you to communicate how elements of their personal worldview, assumptions, beliefs, goals, and strategies, that is Gandhi's assumptions, goals, later Martin Luther King's assumptions, beliefs, goals. I want you to be able to compare your view with each of them. So when we spend many class periods looking at Gandhi, and then later many class periods on King, I want you to produce a very short paper, 2 to 3 pages, relating to how you agree or disagree with Gandhi, and a later paper on how you agree or disagree with King. This is not meant to be a burden. This is meant to encourage you to help integrate the understanding of these 2 great men with your own. I'm giving you an excuse to put down to paper some of your thoughts. And be assured that when you send these papers to me, I will read them. I will read them carefully, and I will give you some feedback. It is not meant to be a lot.
Point out another question. I'm so
Yes.
sorry to be interrupting you.
No.
I have another question. Like you said, we have to write 2 worldview papers. So when do we submit it? Towards the end of the course, or do we have? How frequently do we have to give those 2
Now,
papers?
this is a good question, of course. No bad question. But you will notice on the page 2 of the syllabus itself, I'm holding
Okay,
it.
sir.
I'm holding it. You can see it posted in our discussion. The first paper is due March 1st,
All right, sir.
and the second paper is due March 28th.
Fine, sir. Thank you,
And
sir.
so I like to be really clear, because then you can plan. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So thank you again for your
Thank
question.
you. Thank you, sir.
Questions? Yes, yes.
Thank you for clearing my doubts, sir.
Well, I like to be highly organized. It maybe is a little bit of a cultural trait of Europe and the United States. But I like to be, Gandhi was very organized. And so King was very organized. So I
Yes.
like to exhibit that trait. And then the last requirement is a final paper. And you can see it here on the slide. The final paper is 3 to 5 pages in length. That means no more than 5. Please, no more than 5. I don't want to have to buy another pair of glasses because my eyes will be worn out by reading. Only 5, max 5. 3 pages is fine. In this one, you integrate your views gleaned from your journal entries and your 2 worldview papers. Look over your 2 worldview papers. Compare and contrast Gandhi and King, and describe how you may personally agree and or disagree with each of them. So again, even the final paper is not meant to be a big task. It is meant to help you personally integrate the information from the class for use in your own life. And yes, this is due on April 5th, the last day of the class. I do say that extensions will be granted only due to emergency circumstances that you can communicate with me. I do believe things happen. There are emergencies. If during the week of April 1st, your mother-in-law is in the hospital and you must be by her bedside, you of course understand that I will not require your paper to be due on April 5th. Your duty is to be with your mother-in-law. I mean, to me, this is obvious, but I'm saying the obvious so you understand. But it should be a true emergency, because since you now know the final paper is due April 5th, you have time to plan. And hopefully it will not be a problem turning in a 3 to 5 page paper at that time. Questions at this point? Now, in all of my classes, I have a little statement like this: academic honesty. We should, please don't cheat. I don't know why we shouldn't even have to say that, but obviously no cheating of any kind, including plagiarism or using artificial intelligence to replace your own intelligence. This cannot be tolerated. Such activity will render the paper unacceptable. I hope you understand. It is very strange. I once taught a course some years ago where each student was to turn in a 20-page paper. I received the papers, and I noticed, because I read them, that 2 students turned in the exact same paper, except that one of the students, about on page 11, wrote, "Do you really read these papers?" And in the margins I wrote, "Yes, I do. And you receive 0 credit for this paper, as does your friend who same paper." And so, let us just behave like in a responsible way. This is intended to be a useful educational experience for each of you. Now, course texts. Notice that I say the following are encouraged but not required. You're not taking the course for credit. I don't want you to have to spend too much time with this course. You can simply enjoy the lectures and the discussion. However, if you want, you can, of course, read materials as we move along with each session, and that will give you depth. And if you were taking the course for credit, I would probably insist that you do the reading. But none of you are taking the course for credit. You're not, the course is free. And so I am only asking that you think about reading. You don't have to. There are 3 major course texts, one by me, one by Louis Fisher, and one by Marshall Frady. My book is Soul Force and Social Change. It is a reprint of my doctoral dissertation. This will be available, I hope, within a week on the Wiki Nonviolence website for free. Amit Tyagi has already promised to help the technologically ignorant me successfully get my book onto the website. I warn you ahead of time that this book is A+ when it comes to content. It's exceptionally good. I'm not humble. On the other hand, it's really boring. It is not well written. I am also exceptionally honest. And so, if you want to read this book, it will help you understand Gandhi and King much better. But it will be a challenge to read because it was written not in a good writing style. The Fisher book and the Frady book are both very short biographies of Gandhi and King, less than 200 pages, very simple to read. They will give you the basics of Gandhi and King's life and his upbringing, their upbringings and their various influences on their lives. We will cover some of these basic things in the class, but of course, if you read the books, you will know more than we can cover in class. You will notice at the bottom of page 2, there are far more extensive biographies available. And if you were taking this class for, let's say, PhD level credit, I would ask you to read The Life of a nearly 700-page biography that is very, very detailed and very well written. I would also ask you to read King, A Life by Jonathan Eig, which was published in 2023, which is also nearly 700 pages long and is exceptionally well written. It actually received a Pulitzer Prize in 2024 for being one of the most outstanding books of the last year. So I recommend these books to you if you really want to have a depth of understanding. And when I say I recommend them to you, for example, I would certainly include, I am looking at my notes from yesterday. The young man, young by my standards, who is studying in India for his PhD, focusing on Gandhi and King. You know who you are, and soon I will remember your name. I highly recommend for that person who maybe want to be more serious in taking this class to read the lengthy Louis Fisher biography and the prize-winning biography by Jonathan Eig of Martin Luther King Jr. I highly recommend that. Now, are there questions about page 2? Then we can go to page 3, the last page that I wanted to cover today. And here you will notice I am very organized. You can see we are covering today what I wanted to cover. Tomorrow, February 1st, we will define nonviolence, peace, and peace studies. Next Thursday, we will look at 20 paths to peace. Well, already there's a mistake because I decided to revise that handout. And so now there are 28 paths to peace. Part of my compulsive personal behavior means that whatever I do, whenever I do it again, I want it to be better. It's kind of a perfectionist problem. And so I have revised that handout and I will give it to Harshal to send out to you. And a week from, well, not a week, next Thursday, February 6th, we will review so many different paths to peace, and we will see how Gandhi and King are very, very small pieces of that very, very big puzzle. You can see that we spend 4 80-minute class periods on Gandhi's worldview. That's a lot of time. That will give you a more detailed understanding of Gandhi's views regarding Sat, Ahimsa, Tapas, Moksha. You can see it, Sarvodaya, Brahmacharya. You will have a better understanding than 99% of the people on the planet. That doesn't mean that you will be ready for a PhD, but it means that you will be very well informed relating to how Gandhi looks at the world. And notice that after the February 5th session, or right about that time, I'm asking you to provide your typed journal reflections. That's that one paragraph for each class that you attend. I would like you to provide me those reflections. First, because I would like you to actually be integrating the information as we go along. But also, I will use those reflections to confirm that you have attended the class. So, for example, if you send me reflections relating to 3 class periods that you missed, and maybe you saw the taped versions of those classes, you send me the reflections, that one little paragraph regarding that class you missed, and I will assume that you attended the class. And I will count that towards your certificate completion. Does that make sense? I mean, I trust your word, but I trust your word even more when I have it in writing. One little paragraph to show me that you were attentive enough to have reflections on that one session. Okay? Then we carry on.
Yes, sir.
Are there questions?
No, sir. I just give my affirmation.
Okay, I mean, I trust people. On the other hand, I know that people can have very busy lives and be tempted not to learn as much as they can. And I'm encouraging you to learn as much as you can. Okay? Now we carry on with Gandhi, you see, for 2 more weeks. On March 1st, you can see it again, Shuchitra, that I have the worldview paper number 1 due. This is relating to Gandhi.
Yes, sir.
And then we go with King. You can see we do much the same with King. We look at the influence of various people and experiences on Dr. King. We go into his worldview. And then we have a few more journal reflections coming on March 15th. On March 15th. And then we have the worldview paper for Dr. King coming on March 28th. Now, I might add at this point that I personally hope that we will have very good discussion, that in many cases, you will be helping each of you to teach the class. Many of you have experiences and information that will greatly improve the learning experience for everyone, including me. I also will be looking to have at least 3 or 4 guest lecturers to share with you during these 30 weeks. I have in mind some of the people I may invite, but no one is yet confirmed. So you can see at the very bottom of the page, I do say certificates of completion will be sent to participants finishing all course requirements. Please finish all of the late requirements if you have them by April 15th so that we can get the certificates out. We will flow with the course, and so it may be that the syllabus will have to be modified, but with your consent, if we have a guest speaker, or if you want to spend more time, let's say, looking at Gandhi in South Africa. But for every more time we spend on one subject, we will necessarily have to spend a little less on another. So I want the course to be yours, and I will respond to your suggestions. Yet this is the outline I will be working with until such time as we make any changes. Are there any questions about the course?
Richie, I have a little bit doubt.
You have a doubt?
A little bit.
I know that. Yes, Reza.
Yes, I'm Reza.
What
What
is
about the review, sir? It means that it is necessary that we have to find any academic article, then we have to review it?
No.
Or...
Now, Reza,
yeah,
of course, you can do all of that. You can work as much as you want on your own, but not requiring it.
Oh, good.
Well, I don't know if it's good, but you can read 15 books in the next, if you like. But I think you may be crazy. You have other things to do with your time. You have your son to take care of. You have a wife, and so hey, do what you want to do.
Okay.
But for this course, the requirements are not great. That is very intentional.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
So if you go crazy, don't blame me. Okay? It's not my fault. Are there other questions or comments relating to the course?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, hello, sir.
Yes.
Actually, I'm giving my introduction to all because I'm not attending yesterday's session.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. I am Anita Fulwadi from India. I am working as an assistant professor in MGM University in education department, and I am working in the teaching field since 20 years. I observed that the teaching field is very important, and we have peace education subject in UG and PG also. And we observe that the class management and the school management having this type of task for peace education. That's why I joined the CB Sir's fellowship also, and I'm working with Dr. John Sir, and I'm very inspired from him. That's why we observe that every person having social and personal violence, and I learned very much tricks from CB sir also, and that's why I'm following their fellowship. Now I want to studies about in depth and what want to serve for society. Thanking for giving me an opportunity for joining this virtually with international people. Actually, my English is not proper, but I will try my best, sir.
well, thank you for interrupting and sharing.
Yes, sir.
I think your English is just fine.
Yes, sir.
It is more Indian English inspired by British English. And so my English may also not be so fine because in your ears, it is very different. Yes? So
Yes, sir. Yes.
I will try to speak slowly
Yes, sir.
because I know my accent is not something many people are used to.
So many people's not getting, sir, because of the accent of every person is very different, and
Well, let us be
so
patient
many
with one
people's
another
having that problem.
and let us try to speak slowly.
Yes, sir.
And
So many people having that problem.
and thankfully, we don't have anybody from Edinburgh, Scotland, because the Scottish accent I find especially difficult. But it is also English.
Especially Glaswegian accents. In Scotland, also the Glaswegian accent. I mean, it goes above your head.
Well, I have.
I was in Glasgow one. I was in Glasgow one, and I simply could not understand what those people were saying. If you are in Edinburgh, if you are in other parts of Scotland, at least you're able to understand. It's quite different, but still you can understand. But if you ever happen to listen to Glaswegian accent, it's one of the most difficult accents to comprehend.
But it is very easy for the people in Glasgow.
Indeed.
And so I'm grateful that so many of you do speak English because I don't speak Hindi. I don't speak Farsi. I don't speak Russian. I don't speak well other languages. And I'm grateful that we can converse in English.
Yes, sir.
Okay. At this point, we have 30 minutes.
I have one question.
Excellent. Please.
Would you not recommend reading some of Gandhi's own writings, his autobiography, or some of his other
Yes.
writings, including the booklet called Hind Swaraj?
Well, I certainly would recommend so many readings. If I were recommending to a serious student of Gandhi something to read, I would, of course, first recommend Satyagraha in South Africa. And then I would recommend Hind Swaraj, which is a very short book. Certainly, I would recommend reading his autobiography. Those are the three substantial books. Gandhi was not a book writer. Even his autobiography was published in serial form in a magazine. So for Gandhi, of course, the single best source of all original writings is the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, which is 100 volumes of 500 pages each. That includes all of his surviving correspondence with Amy Besant, with Leo Tolstoy, with Rabindranath Tagore, all of his published works from Young India to Harijan. And by the way, the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi are, of course, available through the Gandhi portal at Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad, but they are also available even at the Wiki Nonviolence website. The same website that was created by Amit Tyagi, who is part of our group. And so you can make use of Wiki Nonviolence also to access the entire collected works of Mahatma Gandhi. And there would be recommendations for King. King wrote 4 books. I would suggest for someone who is serious about King for them to read his first book, Stride Toward Freedom, and his last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? Beyond that, there are many resources available at the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if all of them are accessible for those who want to do publishing. There is still some copyrighted material at Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta that may not be available for more than research. They may still have some restrictions on what can be cited in publications. You would have to consult with them. But again, like I said to Reza, our good friend from Afghanistan who is living now in Kerala, I'm not wanting you to go crazy. Please feel free to read anything that anyone, including me, recommends to you. But for this class, I do not have many requirements. Okay? Okay. Now, since we don't have an awful lot of content to discuss yet, since it is only our second class period, in our last 20 minutes, if Harshal can put up the slide, I thought we might look briefly at different views of human nature. Is that slide accessible?
Yes, it should be.
I am not seeing it yet.
Is it out? Okay. Is it visible?
Look at that. The miracles of technology. Now, it may be possible for some of you who see this to expand it a little so you can read it. But this is a product of, I suppose you can say, about 40 years of teaching on my part. in graduate school, my main specialty was political philosophy and also political ideologies. And so in studying the classic thinkers from Karl Marx to John Locke, at some point I decided, let me try to get an idea of how they look at the world differently by having different views of human nature. This categorization was created by me, inspired by a person who influenced Martin Luther King Jr., a man by the name of Reinhold Niebuhr. Niebuhr. Reinhold Niebuhr is no more in this world, but wrote many books. And one of the insights that I received from reading Niebuhr was that he considered human nature to be, he would say, moral man, immoral society. That was one of the books that he wrote. He maintained that human beings are very moral, good, caring, sharing on an individual level, but are often very selfish, violent, harmful on a group level. In other words, he gave me the thought that maybe human nature can be seen on at least two levels. And you can see on this little handout that in the upper left-hand corner, there is viewed individually and viewed in groups. So individually, human beings can be seen as social, selfish, or a conditioned response to their environment. Similarly, in groups, if you go down the column, they can also be seen as social, selfish, or a conditioned response to their environments. Now, this is not trying to be comprehensive, but it is more complicated than most of us normally think about. It gives us 9 different views of human nature, not just 2. And those 9 views, I thought, well, who would be in each box? Can I think in the history of political philosophy, who would be an example in each of those boxes? Who would say that human nature is social and sharing on the individual level and social and sharing in groups? And that, I thought, St. Francis of Assisi. On the other end, who might say that human beings are social conditioned responses to their environment on the individual level, and their conditioned responses to their environment on the group level? And I thought that would be Karl Marx. Karl Marx doesn't believe that human nature is unchanging. Everything is changing. Everything is a response to your environment, your economic and other environment. And so as I looked at this and created this diagram, which you are now looking at and you can think about, there were 9 distinct views of human nature. And then at the very bottom of this handout are a further reflection on my part. I would suggest to you that the top line, St. Francis, Adam Smith, John Locke, are all, to some degree, focusing primarily on freedom as their primary value, and they lend themselves to the ideology of liberalism. And there are several different kinds of liberalism, so I say liberalisms. While those in the middle column, in the middle horizontal line, St. Augustine, Thomas Hobbes, Machiavelli, they typically emphasize stability or security as their primary value, and they lend themselves to some kind of conservative idea system. And typically, those in the bottom horizontal line, Plato, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the Frenchman, and Karl Marx, they typically emphasize equality as their primary value. Equality being more important than stability or freedom. Equality is the foundation of stability and freedom. No, John Locke would say, freedom is the foundation for stability and equality. No, Thomas Hobbes would say, stability is the foundation for freedom and equality. In fact, Thomas Hobbes would say equality is a foolish idea. But the bottom line typically lends itself to some form of socialism. It tends to be far more decentralized socialism, if you're looking at Plato, far more potentially centralized socialism, if you're looking at least the Lenin interpretation of Karl Marx. So, this, of course, can be easily discussed in more than 15 minutes. But in the 15 minutes we have in this class, first, do you have questions about the diagram? And second, in a moment, I will ask, where do you see yourselves in which box? Are you more in one box than the other? So first, do you have any questions regarding the diagram? Yes, Viju, I see your finger. You had a question?
Where would you place the Buddha and Jesus Christ?
Well, this is probably better for you to think about, but most religious leaders are in the far left vertical column. You will notice St. Francis, St. Augustine, Socrates, and Plato. Personally, I think Gandhi would be most likely in the box with Plato. And Martin Luther King would be kind of between Rousseau and Karl Marx. Where would the Buddha be? Personally, I think the Buddha would be close to St. Francis. But what do you think?
Yes, I suppose, yes.
Again, it's hard to put people and ourselves into boxes. And 9 boxes is much better than 2. But there should probably be at least 50 boxes, yes? Life is very complicated. But I find this diagram useful just to promote discussion.
Yeah, if I can say something towards that, I would say, well, for myself, it's very hard, as you just said, to kind of like put yourself in a place, as I personally would like to think that I can divide it up a little bit. So I have like my private social life where I would like to go for one column, but then like work-wise, for example, I do think that sometimes Machiavelli would be like a good choice to be like, okay, you seek an opportunity, you actually go through with it. So I think it's like probably like kind of depending on like what situation in life you're looking at and what your goal in that situation is. And on the other side, I wanted to say, in general, I do really like that table because I think it's a very interesting view to look at it. I also think that, especially like for me, you have those two columns where it's like conditionate. I think that probably for myself, but that's just like my own opinion, probably still goes for all of them. Because, for example, when I look at Hobbes, just as one example, I'd say still the human, the way Hobbes creates the human, or the way Hobbes like adds the attributions to a human, is still conditioned by the surrounding that it's creating. Like it still is inflicted by how the world is conditioned, and that's why the humans act like they act in Hobbes. That's what I would think. So I think like that would like kind of like go for all of them, that there is like a certain world view, a certain type of the world that then conditions the way the human is defined.
I understand. And that tells me that your view is really probably closer to to Marx, because Marx's view of Thomas Hobbes would be you're a conditioned response to your environment. And Hobbes would say to Marx, no, it is a fact. Life is nasty, brutish, and short. Every man has his price. None of us are moral. Love does not exist. Love is simply, for Thomas Hobbes, a way of manipulating one person to satisfy your selfish needs. And Marx would go back and say, Mr. Hobbes, my goodness, I feel so sad for you. You understand, Mr. Hobbes, that you lived during the 30 Years' War in Europe from 1618 to 1648. You were living in war. Half of the population of Europe died during that war, either of the plague or of starvation or war itself. Marx would say, Mr. Hobbes, your extremely sad and selfish view of human nature is a conditioned response to your life during a period of horrible warfare in Europe. And Hobbes would say, Marx, you're wrong. Everyone is like this in all times. And we should not, we have a social contract, according to Hobbes, that means that we should abide by law, but the law should come from a king elected for life, a king who has absolute power over each of us, that keeps us all in fear of him so that we won't be killing each other. That's the best we can hope for in this world, according to Hobbes, is an absolute dictator, perhaps elected for life, who will keep control over us. Now you can see how the views of Thomas Hobbes are going to contribute to the support gained by Adolf Hitler. It helps to contribute towards fascism, both in the 1930s and 40s, as well as today. Your view of human nature really does impact how you respond to the world. And if you absolutize one view, like Hobbes would, that will predictably impact your political and social and other views. If you're more like Plato, and why do I put Plato in a column that would lend itself towards socialism? Partly because the word socialism didn't exist until the 1820s. And long before the word socialism came to be used, first in France, there was people like Plato. And if you read the dialogues of Plato, and I have read them all, because I'm that old. And as a student, I took a number of courses on Plato. If you read Plato, in one of his dialogues, I think it's the Gorgias, Plato suggests that a society is best when the richest person in the society is no more than 4 times more wealthy than the poorest. Plato didn't advocate for complete equality, but he did advocate for a wealth distribution of no more than 4 to 1. He believed that if the wealthiest is more than 4 times more wealthy than the poorest, that will be a very unstable society, and people will be more in conflict with one another. And so that is a pretty serious redistribution of wealth in today's terms that Plato would advocate. 4 to 1. Whew. Not quite communist, but pretty close. So I think Plato is a proto-socialist, as I say. The roots of Plato are very much controlling economic disparities of economic wealth. But that flows from his view of human nature, you see. He does believe that people are naturally social, sharing on the individual level, but in groups they can become very selfish and competitive. That's why we need an environment conditioning them to behave on the group level. And part of that environment is for the wealth to be no more than 4 to 1 in terms of the wealthiest and the poorest. I hope you find some of these thoughts provoking. Is there anyone who would love to comment in the last 4 or 5 minutes that we have? I can hear some of you thinking. I can hear it. It's a little bit rusty wheels in the minds of some people. Other people are well greased, but they don't want to speak. But it's okay, as long as you're thinking. Amit.
Michael,
Yes?
yeah, okay. Don't we all have all the time collaboration and contradiction of all these sides?
Well, you might. But
Maybe, yeah. I'm pretty
that,
sure about me. Yes, for sure.
that could be very, very confusing. I mean, you're going to be St. Francis and Machiavelli at the same time? I think you may have psychological issues, perhaps a multiple personality. I don't know. St. Francis and Machiavelli are not going to be very good together.
Good day, sir. Sir, it's Neelu Khosla from India, Mumbai.
Aha.
Sir, I have a question which I would like to ask you that when you make this chart of human nature, Do we feel that we are very close to Karl Marx's way of administration in today's context, with the things going on not only in my country but in other parts of the world also, where they need to condition people to follow a certain streamline of behavior and then proceed further with the ideas of constructing a strong nation, or to accept things as they are existing in today's time with the new changes in the technology, and then proceed further with the ideological conceptions?
Perhaps, but I don't want that we to include me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, sir.
I think there are certain trends, clearly, in technology, social media, in the way news is controlled, and the freedom of press, very free. There are certain trends, I would say, towards fascism. And where would Adolf Hitler be here? I would probably say, probably in the column with Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Very close to Karl Marx. People like Hitler, and I would also suggest possibly Donald Trump, see human beings as inherently selfish. And of course, they're also competitive in groups, but we need to condition our group to be the superior group. If there's going to be a hierarchy among nations and among groups within a country, I want to be at the top of the hierarchy. Adolf Hitler would say, good, blonde, blue-eyed Aryan people. Others might say, good, devout Hindus in Hindutva. Others might say, good Americans, not immigrants, Americans. And by that I mean white, male Americans, Christian Americans. That would be more like Donald Trump. We try to control, many people try to control the environment to try to make other people agree with them. But that really does take away a great deal of freedom, doesn't it? At what price would be the stability given by Adolf Hitler? I will create a Reich that will rule peacefully for 10,000 years, where the superior races of the world will rule over the culture maintaining races and the culture destroying races. We may have to exterminate the culture destroying races of the world for the sake of humankind. Sieg Heil! That is not the kind of leader or world that I want to live in. That is not my kind of leader. You have to decide about what you need and what you believe.
Thank
Well, our time is up. I hope that we are not feeling bored. I hope that we have learned a little today. And I hope with your help, we can learn much more tomorrow.